What's up, guys? This is YGO Silence coming at you with another deck profile. Now today I'm going to be showing you a highly requested video. This is my Darklord build. This is kind of what my channel is known for, one of the decks I really focus on a lot. This is the first deck I really tried to play a lot, try to get familiar with after I got into the game. So Darklords are something very near and dear to my heart. I put a lot of work and effort into it. This build is something I'm taking a couple liberties with. This is something that I think is a lot of fun. It's not just, your standard drop Vanity's Fiend Darklord build. This is kind of something a little more enjoyable to play. But I think it's still extremely viable. You could drop some nasty boards. I've regularly dropped boards with Christia plus a rank 8, plus an Ixtia with Trap and Grave with a Link monster on board. And, it's not really that hard. This deck can swarm very, very effectively. But anyway, guys, that being said, let's get right into this video. Alright, starting off with the main deck, you must, of course, play 3 Darklord Ixtil. This is the Destiny draw card. This is the best Darklord, other than Superbia. And this card just really starts all of your plays. This is also your waifu. This is probably my favorite card in the entire game. I love Ixtil a lot. It's just, this card, when you see it in your opening hand, you know you're going to be able to go off because it just starts so much stuff. So you definitely must play 3 Ixtil. Also, this deck is a lot less expensive since they came out with the ultra rare variants, a lot of these Darklords. So I think a lot more people will be able to get their hands on Darklords, and I highly recommend you do. This deck is a lot of fun to play. Probably the most fun deck I have ever played. Next, 3 Superbia. Not much to say here. I mean, this is kind of the whole point of Darklords. It's get Superbia and Grave and just start bringing it back over and over again and get stuff like Christia and other Darklords out of your grave and onto the field. So Superbia is a necessary 3 of. Next, for the rest of the Darklords, I play 2 Nostin, 1 Tez, 1 Zerato, and 1 Ukubak. That is all you need. I've seen some people max out on Nastin. That's actually, it's not terrible because Nastin's a really, really good Darklord, one of the best. But the thing is, you can get to him with Banishment pretty easy, and it's really not one you need for your consistency. Also, discarding 2 to summon him is, sometimes necessary for your plays to get a Darklord on board so you can start reoccurring your spell and traps. But you really don't need any more than 2. I found that's a really good number. Also, in this deck, I only have 3 normal summons, and 1 is kind of a normal summon, you'll see later. And so you really want to limit your normal summons in this deck because the ones you have are very, very important. So that's why I play 1 Ukubak and no more, even though it's a very, very good Darklord. So that is your Darklord lineup. It's pretty tight. You don't really want to put that many Darklord monsters in there because sometimes they don't work well, and you'll kind of just run out of resources, which is an issue sometimes with Darklords. Next, Phantom Skyblaster. This card is amazing. It really starts up a lot of your Link plays. When you see him, you could fill your board very, very effectively. 1 Dark Grepher. This is my kind of normal summon I mentioned. Pretty much all of your monsters are, very high-level dark monsters. So you're special summoning Dark Grepher a lot of times, and so usually you'll be able to get Superbia from your deck into grave, or another important Darklord to start reoccurring your spells. So Dark Grepher is very, very good. And then I play 1 Destrudo. Destrudo is an interesting card. I kind of threw this package in a couple days ago, and I've been working with it a lot. The Dark Grepher and Destrudo package. I really like it. I tested with Black Rose in my extra deck too, but the main reason I play Destrudo and Dark Grepher is because you go into the Lightsworn Link a lot to drop a certain card, Arklord Christia, from your deck. And that's kind of, Christia is one of your win conditions. So Destrudo plus Dark Grepher gets you pretty much almost there. So it's a very, very good package. It also lets you dump some other stuff, so it's very good. Next, I play a small danger engine. Not a lot. I play 3 Nessie. Nessie is the best danger. 1 Jackalope, 1 Such, 1 Bigfoot, and 1 Thunderbird. That's it. Nessie's the best. When you discard it for stuff like it's amazing. Jackalope is also really good because So the thing is, when you discard Jackalope, you could summon Bigfoot or Thunderbird from your deck. Thing is, those are level 8 darks, so they have a lot of synergy with stuff like Trade In, Allure, and your rank 8 plays, so these are really, really good dangers in the deck. So I would highly recommend playing this engine. You don't want to play too many dangers. I actually am working on a build with the world, the skip a turn card, and that plays a lot more dangers. But for right now, for the standard Darklord build, you don't want to play that many. Next, final monster, your win condition kind of, Arklord Christia. It really hurts me to only play one. I played two for the longest time. I think that ratio is very, very good, but I think in this case, one is correct because Curious can drop Christia, and it's really, really easy to get to Curious. So you really don't want to play any more Christia. Sometimes not having the second Christia leads Trade-In to be kind of dead, but you just have to be smarter about what you ditch, with your draw cards because you have a lot. And so the order in which you discard stuff is kind of important. But that's the monsters. Starting with the spells. 3 banishment. This is non-negotiable. You need 3 banishment. 3 contact. So for a very long time, I said you need 3 contact. For a little bit, I actually played 2. Because, Monster Reborn, World Legacy Succession, you have other reborn cards. But I'm back to 3 now because I realized anything less than 3 is incorrect. So definitely play 3 of both of those. Next, some draw cards. 3 Allure and 3 Trade-In. These are the best draw cards for this deck. Number 1, they're not once per turn, so they kind of let you dig through your deck really efficiently. I regularly go through, 20 cards in my deck, to get my plays going, and I end up with a very thin deck at the end. One thing I have been working on a lot with Darklords is you want to keep your monster count high, and you want to keep your spell and trap count, kind of lower. I run 18 spell and traps in this build in a 40 card variant. You don't want to go over that magic number 20 because then you start seeing way too much green in your opening hand. And it leads to be a problem with Darklords where a lot of times you need monsters in hand to do stuff. Your power 1-ofs, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Succession. You summon a lot of Link monsters. You have a lot of ways to go into Link monsters, so Succession's just another Monster Reborn pretty much. 1 Card Destruction. Card Destruction plus Dangers is busted. Foolish Burial. It's a graveyard deck, Foolish Burial is amazing. And then for traps, I play 1 Rebellion and 1 Enchantment. These are the best Darklord traps. The new one's pretty solid. I shouldn't say new. It came out a little while ago, but new-ish one. But these are the best ones, and I also only play 1 of each. Any more, you start seeing too many of them. But you could get to it with Banishment. You can send it with Curious. I mean, the Darklord traps, they're really, really good, but you don't want to see them that much. But anyway, that's the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. Alright guys, starting off with the extra deck, I quickly want to say, this extra deck is really open. You play a lot of rank 8s, you play a lot of links, but other than a couple cards, you can really play whatever you think you need. This is not one of those decks where you have 10 required extra deck monsters and you cannot stray from that. This one's very open. So I'm going to just show you what is successful for me and what I think works best, but there's a couple cards I'm going to mention that you could throw in if you want to. But starting off, the rank 8s, Galaxy has Photon Lord. Monster Negation is good. Felgrand. Felgrand is very similar to Photon Lord. I actually go into Felgrand actually a little bit more because if I have 1 Superbia in grave, I could detach that Superbia from this after I make it and then get that Superbia back in grave after I target itself. Titanic Galaxy, Lancelot, Dingirsu. People always forget Dingirsu is a generic 8, so it has a spin where it'll send a monster to the grave, non-targeting, non-destruction, and it protects your field from destruction twice because it's not a hard once per turn, or it's not a once per turn, so it's really, really good. Dingirsu is a great rank 8. Big Eye, you play a fair amount of 7s in this deck. The Destrudo package, Nastin, your dangers, so Big Eye comes up every once in a while. Link Spider, when I'm making Borreload or Boral Sword using Phantom Sky Blaster, this does come up, so I need to play it. Wee Witches, this could be Beat Cop. I don't like Beat Cop as much, but Wee Witches is a lot better with the attack gain. Phoenix, Cerberus, Curious. You can make this card really, really easy. And it's kind of the way you send your Christia from your deck to your grave, which is almost a win condition going first, because a lot of decks just can't out a Christia. Boral Sword, Borreload, Saryuja. Saryuja is really good for digging through your deck if you can kind of spam onto the board. It'll let you get access to your banishment, to your contact, to your monster-born, stuff like that, to kind of let you go on your plays. And then Cyber's Quantum. I think Cyber's Quantum is the best 7 to play here because it's just kind of free. It does everything you need to. But anyway, that's the extra deck. Let's move on to the side. Alright guys, starting off with the side deck, I quickly want to say this is up to your personal preference. Darklords is not something you should be taking to a regional or a YCS, so kind of tailor your side deck for what you think you're going to see at your locals. If you know you have a ton of Cyber Dragons there, side for Cyber Dragon, stuff like that. But there are cards in here that I would highly recommend putting in, so that's kind of what I'm going to show you here, but this is my side deck. This is what works for me. I know, for example, I have a ton of Thunder Dragon. I have a lot of Sky Striker at my locals, which is really, really rough sometimes, but this is what helps me deal with that. But starting off, 3 Lancey. I think this should be in every single side deck in this format because it kills Orcust and it kills Thunder Dragon. And a lot of decks just don't like dealing with Lancia. You know, a lot of the graveyard resource decks, you know, Lancia will kind of end it. So, I would definitely play 3 of this in your side. Next, 3 Droll. This is specifically for Thunder Dragon, because I really, going second against Thunder Dragon, like, you cannot play into that board, so Droll kind of stops them. This also works against Crusadia Guard Dragon, just a really, really good card. So going second against those decks, you have a lot of trouble with, and anybody does, so this is what I have for that. This is kind of my cheeky side. I really, really like Spell Cancelers, alright? These are amazing cards. As long as this card remains face-up on the field, all spell cards cannot be activated. The effects of all face-up spell cards are also negated. So number 1, this completely beats Mystic Mine by itself, which is hilarious. You could just drop this and they cannot out it. So if you have, you know, Trap Negation or something, or if you just keep their back row, you know, manageable, Spell Canceller is just busted, and so you could just keep poking them. I've done that numerous times. Also, against Sky Striker, it is an outright win. So this is one of the reasons I keep a very, very tight normal summon count, because Spell Canceller is that good, and so when I side it in, I don't want to have too many normal summons. Next, generic, you know, Twin Twisters. Back row decks suck. I really don't like dealing with them. But considering I play Orcust a lot, you know, I can't really, you know, talk. But Twin Twister is just a very, very good generic side. It hits a lot of stuff very, very well. I don't play it in the main, number 1, because Darklords have consistency issues to begin with, so you have to make sure your deck is really, really tight when you're building Darklords. So you can't take a lot of liberties with stuff like Twin or Called by the Grave. So I keep them in the side. But Twin is a very, very good card to side. And then the last, but certainly not least, Eradicator Epidemic Virus at 3. So this card is hilarious, alright? I will not lie. Like, this card is funny as shit. When you drop Eradicator Epidemic Virus, like, sometimes people will just scoop. Because depending on what you're playing, if you call the correct thing Speller Traps, which it's a side deck card, you know, you should know what you're calling before you side this in. This will just end games. Like, Sky Striker, done. You know, Mystic Mine, done. Like, this card is just hilarious when you use it. So, I would definitely recommend putting that in your side. But anyway, guys, that is my Darklord build. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Please feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.